Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful that I am here. I just cannot, I don't know what it is, but I just can't get things to stream very well right now. I think in this room that I'm in, the signal is not very good and there's no way to hardwire and blah, blah, blah. I'll just keep complaining. But oh boy, if that isn't a beautiful segue into this whole situation, just in general, right? So I'm gonna stop hyper focusing on where this stream is and just get on with it. So welcome. This is the Daily Medicine Transmission. It's April 1st, 2021. We made it to April already. Man, I'm telling you what, March just went right by. It certainly did. It went right by. Aries is not waiting around for anybody, and the Sun and Venus are there. So, the title of this transmission today is Sun Realizations Can Cast a Shadow. And I had my very own dog com this morning to really, really highlight this, dynamic, because there are sudden realizations that are leading to a moment of adjustment that is most likely going to be resisted and causing some discomfort on some level. And one of the things that I mentioned in the intro, the written intro, as I posted this on social media, is that, just because the sun casts a shadow and we're standing in it and we're feeling it and we are living it in that moment, that does not diminish the light of the sun whatsoever. It is our choice to stand in the shadow. And if we just take a step to the side, then we are back in the light. And despite this uncomfortable adjustment that's really at the heart of today's energy, there is the light coming, the unconditional love that the sun represents, the unconditional giving that the sun represents. So we'll talk about that when the intuitive messages come into the picture here, and we're going to talk about the astrology because the moon is in Sagittarius now. So I'll tell you about my dog comp because it really does play into this in terms of our expectations, the feeling of what we think is truth, the realizations of our participation in the situation that is unfolding that we don't like, and how we can come to terms with that. And sun realizations, they will, the light of the sun will cast a shadow. That is the reality of living in material form. And as I said, it doesn't diminish it whatsoever. It's just a matter of position, right? A matter of position and perspective. So this morning, I'm house sitting. As you can tell, I'm not in my studio. And, I work with I work with all kinds of animals, but mostly older dogs who have trauma and need special care in terms of a caregiver, and dogs that have medical issues that just need extra care. And so I am watching right now a dog who is just older. He doesn't have any major medical issues. He's just older and very stuck in his routine as well. So I have a routine and he has a routine, and he's used to getting his way, and he should get his way. He's a dog. He doesn't, cognitively come to these conclusions. It's just the routine that this animal, lives out every day. So I get up before the sun comes up, and I have a whole morning routine that I do with getting prepared for this transmission. And so I get up before the sun. I am in my meditation and channeling in this transmission as the sun's coming up and pulling my cards. Well, I didn't let the dog out right before I went to bed last night because I was feeling lazy. And we had went on a walk, but it was much earlier in the evening, and I was like, he'll be fine. So I get up, and I'm usually through my whole routine before the dog even wakes up and needs to go out and be fed. Well, because I didn't let him out at the very end of the night, he also woke up having to go out right in the middle of my meditation, and he's barking at me from behind the door of this room that I'm in. And so I was so pissed. I was so pissed at him, and just grumbling about it. Of course, I had to get up and let him out. I mean, he has no control over that. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'll go back to the reading and I'll feed him as I usually do after I'm done. And so I sit down and I get ready to start pulling cards, and he starts barking at me from behind the door because he's like, now it's time to eat. I went out and went to the bathroom. Now you have to feed me. And I'm like, no. I was just so just so salty about it. And the reality is that I created that situation. And the sudden realization that cast a shadow was onto my own shadow, right? And, I have a lot of Sagittarius. I have a lot of Sag in my chart. I have a Sun Sagittarius. I have all of it in the 10th and 11th house. I have a stellium in Sagittarius. My fortune is at the galactic center. Mars, Neptune, Mercury, all, and the sun, all in Sag. So this moon in Sag is, it's really easy in Sagittarius to project your judgment out onto other people, because Sagittarians tend to be brutally honest because they are plugged into the ultimate truth, right? That is what Sagittarius represents, the realization of the big picture and the truth. And that is why in the 9th house, we are talking about higher education, foreign travel, religion, dogma, philosophy, belief systems, and collective values. And when you're plugged into that or have a strong resonance with Sagittarius, you tend to be brutally honest because you just are plugged into the truth. So with this moon in Sag today, and we're going to go over it, there is a strong feeling within us of what the light of truth is, having that realization. But because it is the internal landscape and the moon and, the way that our personalized consciousness is formed, we are it's just, we're not really liking what we're seeing. And the reality is that we've created this situation as a result of our action or our lack of action. In my case, it was the lack of action. And this is not something that, it's not the dog's fault. The dog is just doing what the dog needs to do, which is like some very basic functions and following their routine. And it was my own lack of action that created a situation that I was then grumbling and, on some level trying to blame the dog, but knowing deep down that it was my own fault. And that at the end of the day, everything still worked out exactly as it needed to. I'm still here. I'm a little late, but that's, par for the course, because that Andromedan starseed stuff is really part of my immediate environment and, my 3rd house. So time is like, what? I don't connect to time when it comes to my immediate environment. I prefer to do things on my own timing. And this also played into that. And so what's interesting too is that Black Moon Lilith is actually at a position today that is very much related to the Andromedan galaxy. So, which is about the force of real freedom and independence, like really pushing back against conforming to anything. And Lilith, our survival and that instinct and that self-preservation that's so powerful. There's a little bit too much to hold here. We have to start letting go of some things in order to not, if we are really hyper fixated on holding everything, all of the potential, all of, and juggling all, we are very likely going to drop a lot of things. And this is, again, how the shadow, the sun casting the shadow, we're going to need to make some adjustments. And there is swift, sudden realizations coming in today that will likely provide that. And this will lead to, like I said, the sun is not diminished by anything that we do. It is what it is and is in its fullness regardless. It's really about our position and our perspective that really makes a difference in how we interact. So let's look at the chart. I'm going to minimize myself here and we can see what's going on astrologically with our moon in Sagittarius today. So let's look here. I hope everyone is doing well. I want to take a moment here to thank my subscribers for being here and being part of this journey with me. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. And also, if you're new to this channel, welcome and thank you for being here. Hit that subscribe button and, hit that like button too, because that really does influence the algorithm that, pushes this content out to a larger audience. So, all right. So back to the astrology for today. I hope the stream is working. It looks like it is. So, here we go. It's April 1st, right? There is April Fools. There's really no joke that can compare to the prank that is being pulled collectively over many of us on this planet right now. So I'm not even sure what to say about that. So let's see here. Our moon is in Sagittarius. I have it put at this evening because this is a really important aspect to pay attention to, because the moon is going to come and reach the south node today, and at the very same time is going to trine the sun. And as we talked about yesterday, the south node in Sagittarius, this is our karmic mastery, where we've been. It provides the framework and structure of where we are being pulled to in order to grow, in order for our soul to evolve. Okay, now what was this degree? 13 degrees, 12 to 13 degrees. I always round up for the Sabian symbols, is retribution, right? And so, see, the thing is, this is where it gets interesting. And the sun at 13 degrees of Aries is where Venus was. Venus had this connection yesterday to the nodes. The difference now is that the sun is involved and the moon right on the south node. So we're going to be really feeling that realization of what needs to be brought to light. We're going to be feeling it. And retribution brings a lot of emotions. And when we're talking about the moon, oh boy, lots of emotions and a lot of self-righteous judgment can really be brought to the surface. Now, there's something to be said for the momentum that the South Node provides. It shows us where we've mastered, where we've been. And so with the moon, we can also give ourselves the opportunity intuitively to connect to this dynamic from a past situation, that we've already been there and allowed for the things coming to light that haven't been dealt with from the past cycle, now being brought to the surface in order to be purified before we move on to the next cycle. In the sacred alchemy, you can't have impurities, you can't have karma from the last cycle. You have to work all of that out before you can really honestly bring those aspects together to create something new and pure and better. And part of that is looking at what has been part of the past, even though it is already gone to a certain extent, right? The widow's past is brought to light. The widow is showing us that her counterpart at one point her counterpart is now gone, but that has not completely erased everything that was part of that situation. And that is what is coming to the surface. And this is what we are very intimately going to be feeling today. And the sun, that really adolescent frustration of wanting to change the status quo immediately, but being blocked, right? At the same time, in this trine together, these are actually going to support each other very well. This is an instance where a trine, for as harmonious and balanced as it is not necessarily the best type of aspect in this situation, because you don't have to do much with it, but it's not providing any tension in order to change or to grow. But boy, are they supporting each other very strongly. And so we can really feel that sudden realization coming up to the surface, and the incredible feeling around it can be very strong, and it can really elicit that frustration of wanting to make a change very suddenly. And we will be, to a certain extent, we will be stopped by some structured force, right? It's the unexploded bomb at a social protest. It's not going to go off. We may have set the bomb. We may have had every intention to make a vast and very swift change, right? Those sudden realizations, but at the same time, it's not actually going to go off. We're not going to change anything. We're just going to be frustrated. And this frustration is going to be magnified emotionally with the moon meeting the South Node today in this concept of retribution. So just keep that in mind as we move through today. Now, if we go back a little bit today, what else are we going to see? Well, the moon is going to trine Chiron. It's going to quincunx Uranus. These two forces now have moved. They're still in their dance of a semi-sextile, but they've moved into the next degree. These objects, Uranus as a planet, Chiron as an asteroid, they move so slowly that when they move to a new degree, it's a very palpable shift in the archetypal resonance, right? So Uranus now has moved to 10 degrees of Taurus, 9 to 10 degrees of Taurus, which is about the compassionate linking of all humanity for this, just because it exists, right? It's the Red Cross nurse that will provide care and will provide whatever is needed, just because that's what you do for human beings. And Uranus will, give opportunity to shift things around and to disrupt things and to trigger transformation in order to bring this about. And this comes in the disruption of our material reality. And so this is going to provide an awakening opportunity. But where is the moon at this point in this quincunx? And what is a quincunx? Well, we know a quincunx is when there is an adjustment needed. They are aspects that don't fit together. There is a very theatrical representation of where we could go. That's the thing about Sagittarius. It's all optimism and big picture and look where we can go. And it's always looking up. The archer always facing the arrow up. Big picture, expansive, right? And so it's always about the potential, the opportunity, theatrical representation specifically. It's meant to force growth by giving us, in this particular degree, by giving us something to look at. And this actually, the second decan of Sagittarius you're going to see is the ruled by the moon, actually. So it's like forced growth, right? Showing us everything we could be, but with the quincunx to Uranus, then we find ourselves here that is just like, well, the focus here on the awakening process and the focus on the personal awakening and the collective awakening that Uranus and really breaking out, right? True freedom. And there's something really freeing about not having to think about the opportunities, not have to think about necessarily the big picture, and just provide care. Just provide a sense of compassion and humanity. There's something really freeing about that. And so you'll see that while internally and emotionally and the way that our consciousness is being shaped right now by the moon, we may want to engage with that theatrical representation and be like, oh yeah, I see all the potential. But it's not going to fit with where Uranus is. We want to break out and be free. And it's very humanitarian in this degree, and we don't have to think about opportunity. That really strikes me as something that goes back to the concept of the patriot with a P-A-Y, right? We see all the opportunity to grow. We see where we can go, the big picture. And that's not to say that we shouldn't be compensated for this, but what is going to force this adjustment today is that the humanitarian aspect of Aquarius and Uranus being the ruler of Aquarius and wanting to really break out and be much more futuristic in this way and outside of the box is really just like we just all need to address each other as human beings rather than as modes of opportunity in terms of the big picture or how we, the realizations that we have. Now, the trine at the same time to Chiron in Aries is that we can look at this opportunity with new symbolism, right? We can see old symbols now having new meanings, and it's okay to let go of what we had identified as the meaning of certain things, right? This is how we revise our attitude. And with Chiron here, it does provide that, that twinge inside of us that's like, well, I can't change my mind. I can't revise my attitude. I can't see these symbols in a new perspective, because it triggers all of that wounding and shame of self, because you want to you can't grow, right? With that, it's just like, no, I have to stay in my little box of reality, and I can only, if I let this go, then give new meaning to these things, then how can I continue to perpetuate my victim narrative? That's very interesting. And so these things trining today, while at the same time with Uranus, there is a new perspective that we can wrap ourselves around emotionally, or wrap our emotions around in terms of opportunity, that will fit into this adjustment that really needs to, I think, and will happen. And you're going to see it in the intuitive reading, in the message, the adjustment, and just how much it's going to be pushed back against today because of that shadow that's cast. Now, the other thing that we should pay attention to, we did Sun and the nodes, right? And then let's see here, the sun or the moon is then going to sextile where Saturn is today. So that is an investment opportunity as well. We can really take our noblest ideas and bring them into a form, and allow that to be, we each have a role to play. That's where Saturn is sitting right now. We each have our position. We are each in a different place. I know some people are in the same place, but as a whole, as a collective, we are each in our own place. And this is what about finding our Dharma. This has been such a consistent message, finding out what our role in this whole thing is, right? And so if we can identify that, and we can turn that symbol into actual action, right? Because Sagittarius is a fire sign. It's mutable fire, but there is action there and transformation because it is fire. If we can take that ideal and enunciate it into something substantial and real, it will really, within us, right? The moon, it will allow us, if we can invest that into where Saturn is, then we can really accept that boundary and that form and that structure that Saturn is providing, that we each are on our own level. We each have our role to play, but we're still all equal in the eyes of Source. In terms of the biggest picture, we're all equal. We just have our own evolutionary journey to go through. And that it's not a hierarchy necessarily. It's just a difference in where we all are on our journey. So we can take that opportunity, and this is where the trine to Chiron today with the moon is really going, and you're in the quincunx to Uranus. Both of these things are really going to lend themselves to where this sextile is, as you can see here, the moon and Saturn. So, boy, oh boy, let's get into the reading, okay? And I want you to see it. Okay, here we go. So here is our reading today. I'm going to check in with the stream real quick to make sure that we're all here. Hi, Meg. It's so good to see you. All right. Here we go. So the Eight of Wands, Mercury in Sagittarius, the Swift, there's our sudden realization. And in a way that's very balanced, the center of this energy is the Adjustment card, or Justice in the Rider-Waite deck. In the Thoth Tarot, right, it is called Adjustment. We are also looking at number 8. So we have the Eight of Wands. We have 8 as a trump card in the center here. And when we look at all of these things up close, you'll get to see all of the little nuances. But adjustment is really about the balance of contrasts. And this is where the light casting a shadow has to be realized so that we can utilize those opposites as a way to be just fiercely objective and honest, uncompromising honesty and objectivity. Wow, that is such a Sagittarian thing for such a Libran concept. It's and those things sextile each other. Libra and Sagittarius, fire and air, they're in a sextile. You can invest one into the other very harmoniously. So adjustment at the root of things, and reverse like this, there's definitely some resistance to it. The realization is swift. In our mind, Mercury in Sagittarius, right? Our minds being able to wrap themselves around this big picture, coming in very quickly, but it is not going to be an adjustment that is very easily made. And this is where the quincunx with the Sagittarian moon to Uranus today is really going to come in handy. Really embrace that today. Embrace the fact that the shadow is cast and be real with yourself. That's the thing about a moon in Sagittarius. You may as well turn that honesty towards yourself and don't let it turn into judgment. That is a really, really easy thing for Sagittarians to do. This has been some of the most difficult work as a Sagittarius person that I've done, is to learn not to be so critical and judgmental, because they are, Sagittarius, the reason they're brutally honest is because they get it. They have access to the higher picture here, and they don't see any need to do anything but express it. It's like Jupiter rules Sagittarius. You think that he's going to pull any punches for anybody? Hell no. Hell no. He's just like, this is what it is, and I'm going to, I'm going to let you know. That's Jupiter in a nutshell. So, and the vertical polarity here, right, our energetic axis today, we have so much access to real power and real wisdom and real balance today, but we have got to make sure consolidate where our thoughts are going, and really where we're rooted subconsciously, which is why this is such a struggle in terms of adjustment, is that we are feeling very powerless. And you can see here the weasel and the Five of Roses have come out again, so we're going to go over that too. And of course, here's the sun being the effect of all of this. No matter what, the sun is shining. It is the center of our solar system. A star it goes through its main sequence, right, which is the time of its life where it is actively emitting light and heat, right, because it's the main sequence is when it is actively creating helium by merging hydrogen and releasing energy, right? That's the main sequence of any star. It is not diminished by anything other than its own timeline and lifespan. So no matter what, we're still getting the light and the illumination. It's just that and it'll be brighter when the adjustment comes, because maybe that adjustment, even though we're pushing back on it, maybe we're standing in our own shadow, but we're also going to have the opportunity to step out of the shadow and be infused with the light. So no matter what, the light is coming. It's just our response to it, and how we are going to respond to it. And this, again, the Sagittarian moon in a trine to Chiron today gives us an opportunity to revise our attitude about ourselves and about our wounding and about our identification with being a victim or a savior, right? Because that Chiron wound is about feeling shame and guilt for who we are, but it's been imposed upon us out of our control. But there's always control. We always have a choice. And that's what Chiron did. He made a choice to give up that part of his identity in order to actually heal. And not only that, he took a huge one for the team by taking the place of Prometheus, who was being punished eternally for giving fire to the humans, and took his place. And so not only did Chiron heal by giving up that victim identity, he also did more for, I would say, for the karma of humanity and beyond by taking the place of Prometheus. So did more good in that way than he probably ever was going to do as a healer of a personal healer, which is what Chiron, he was very gifted in terms of a mythological construct. So Let's go through this one piece at a time. All right, here's our Eight of Wands, and I figured out finally some technical stuff, so it's not as choppy and amateur hour here. So the Eight of Wands, the swiftness, right? We were talking about the activation, the transformational energy. The wands is the fire, right? This is and Sagittarius is the friction. It's the coal fire. It is the fire that is already burned down and is now so hot you can actually cook on it. You can actually perform alchemy on this fire. Whereas the solar fire is the combustion actively, right? It is the flames shooting up and everything burning. And cardinal fire of Aries is that spark, right? It is the spark from the, with the flint and actually creating the fire to begin with. So when we get to Sagittarius, the fire is a coal fire and can at any point be stoked. But it also is hot enough that you can actually start breaking things down into its simpler parts. So which provides the friction and provides the ability to create something new, to participate in alchemy. So Mercury in Sagittarius. Now remember, Mercury is in its detriment in Sagittarius, in its opposite sign. So having this swiftness here, this Eight of Wands is eight is always divine intervention, right? And you see the rainbow, which is the link, the celestial link to our material realm. It is the covenant, of us being spiritual and material at the same time, the connecting force. And at the same time, that light is particles and waves at the same time. So that's another way of wrapping your head around the rainbow symbolism. And then Mercury is the actual movement of the mind and the ideas. And so you see that it's very geometrically balanced, and you have all of this really powerful energy coming off from this center point. Sudden realization, swiftness of understanding and realization is the energy coming into the moment. So this could happen personally. This could happen as a result of information coming to you, information that you are engaged with in various realms. Any number of ways this could come out, but with the moon in Sagittarius right now, this is very much about the big picture, realization, understanding, and it's going to come through really quick, lightning speed, right? You see all these things, they're like lightning. So, and we need to take decisive action when this happens, and be ready to act on these realizations. And this also means that the solutions already exist, right? It's just a matter of realizing the solution. Just like everything existing all at the same time, there is no time, right? It's just a matter of aligning and resonating with that solution rather than having to go out and find it. And the spirit really needs freedom to fly, and this can represent this as well. So there's progress, there's motion, there's creativity, there's development and change that is part of this energy. So this is what's coming into the moment. And then we have our good friend adjustment, a number 8. Again, this is the card of Libra, the scales of balance, right? You can see, and it's got a really strong Saturn component. So that's something else to keep in mind because of the sextile between the moon and Saturn in Aquarius today. And this is Libra, so we are talking, there's a lot of aspects around the mind and then understanding, because understanding is the synthesis of everything that we know. So Libra is the application of knowledge to find balance. So you see that this is it's very balanced, but it's got this very metallic kind of energy to it. It's very formed, but there's all these spheres around it, and you have this woman at the center. She's got the sword really pointed down and planted, right? There is an adjustment that is a hard adjustment that balances everything out. So it's a balance of contrast. The adjustment card is really the combination of the high priestess and the magician. It is taking those two elements of the shadow and the light, or the void and the mind, and bringing them together and applying it. Libra is the application of knowledge to find balance. So it's taking true conscious action that results from realization, taking conscious action. Now, with it reversed like this, there's a lot of pushback. There's resistance. There is not wanting to take action at all. And in fact, it can be very self-righteous. Oh, that is a Sagittarius word, self-righteous. So when it's reversed like this too, you can get very self-righteous about it. Or in the case of what I had explained earlier with my personal dog calm, I was like grumbling and pissed off and wanted to blame the dog. But at the end of the day, it all comes back around to my own failure to accommodate this animal's needs. And when I knew full well that if I didn't let him out at the very end of the night, that he'd probably get up at the same time as I did. So the adjustment is just not going to be well received and will bring up a lot of the shadow, right? And so, but it's uncompromising honesty and objectivity, regardless of the way that it's situated. The reversal, though, is like, we're just not going to collectively really, oh boy, it's that shadow coming, casting a shadow, and we don't like it, right? I'm not proud of myself for how I was responding this morning, but we're all human beings. And every time that, we have a situation like that, we can either beat ourselves up, we can double down and continue to blame other people, or we can learn from it. So this is at the top of our awareness, the will, wisdom, and mind. This is an incredibly powerful card. We have access right now to an enormous amount of power and balance and expression. This trifecta here with the crown at the top and the alchemical aspects of fire and water being brought together. And the three, right? Will, wisdom, and mind. There is so much power here that we can access. Now, it raises our focus to a higher purpose, right? So we can bring this in terms of our conscious awareness. It's in a position of authority and influence. Even within ourselves, we can really bring this in. When this card comes up, it really does show that we are working very, very directly with a lot of ascended master energy. So whatever sticks out for you as an ascended master that you work with, like Yogananda, for instance, is coming in really strong with, connecting to source directly and the compassion as well. But I mean, it's really just showing us that we have access right now to an incredible amount of power and influence and authority. And it's important that we discipline ourselves to bring it all together. And you'll see here with the guidance, you can already see it with this snow leopard about solitude. The Five of Scrolls is diversity, but it's reversed. We really need to discipline ourselves. And again, it does take discipline. But if we can do that, boy, we have access to an incredible amount of power and balance right now. And so it's imperative that we use these energies well. We should not waste them today, but it requires us to discipline ourselves in order to do that. Now, where we are at emotionally, like subconsciously, the Six of Forces is also reversed. So we really need to rise up and take our power back, because at the root of things, we feel disempowered, right? We feel disempowered, feeling a significant loss of power. And being very emotionally reactive. Oh boy, emotionally reactive. I can, attest to that today, right? That was as frustrating as it was in the moment, and having to step back and watch that shadow part of me come out. I knew at the very same time, I was able to compartmentalize that whole experience and be like, I know that this is a guidance right now. This is guidance for myself and for everybody else. So subconsciously rooted here in this disempowered, emotionally reactive. And we may have given up. Some people may have given up. Some people are feeling like a victim. This is really what's subconsciously and emotionally rooting us into, and not even be aware of it. And again, this is really playing into the resistance to this adjustment. But at the same time, we have access to this incredible amount of power that we can utilize, which is leading us here to the sun, right? The sun there's no bad, even when it's reversed, there's no real bad aspect to the sun. The sun is the fifth house. It's Leo. It is the center of our solar system internally. The fifth house is about joy and pleasure and taking risks and play and children and being uniquely yourself, and not unique in a Aquarian way, although that is the opposition to Leo. It's just being in full expression of who you are. What are you passionate about? How do you express the sovereign version of you. That's really the fifth house, and the sun rules that. And so when you have the sun come out, it's, no matter what, it's still here. And generous, unconditioned principles. Again, going back to Uranus in Taurus right now, providing care and tenderness and compassion to human beings just because we're all human beings. This is going to be, triggered by where Uranus is right now. And so the outcome of all of this is really the sun is still shining no matter what our reaction to it is. And if we want to bask in this light, we do have to recognize that we're standing in a shadow. And that's part of this adjustment period that is at the center here. So some guidance to help us along the way today. This seems really important. The Five of Scrolls is diversity. Now you can see that this woman has an indigo dress on, so we know that the mind, especially that third eye, is really active in this situation. She has a lot of different scrolls that she has been engaging with. Now this is a very Gemini energy in terms of the mind in general. And diversity is being able to, engage with lots of different thought processes, lots of different ideas, being willing to run the full spectrum of information in order to really learn and educate ourselves. Now, it is reversed. We really need to, there's too many things. And if we really want to harness this incredible power and authority and if we want to discipline ourselves in order to harness that, we have to focus on one thing. We have to pick our thing and stop scattering our energy. Now, Mars in Gemini right now has moved into a degree that really does showcase this very much in terms of finding your people and speak the same language that you do, whatever that is, and really honing and consolidating that. We really need to focus our mental sphere on one thing that we can actually control and have some authority over, right? We are so spread, and that's on purpose, right? Scattering our energy, giving us all of these rabbit holes to go down. It's really actually a very sophisticated way of disempowering people, because if you eventually, right, you can take in as many diverse opinions and ideas as you want, and that is a good thing in and of itself. But eventually you have to analyze and come to a conclusion and write your thesis. And you'll never do that and that's a very Sagittarian thing, writing that thesis, the dissertation, the realization. You have to focus in your energy on this one thing, okay? Instead of being scattered, if we want to actually make the most of this energy. And the snow leopard has come out to remind us that it's time to take some time away. Find some solitude where you're not bombarded so much by all of these mental constructs that are really just other people's ideas and thoughts that are meant to keep you from harnessing that power. Right here, the will and the wisdom and the mind. It's about power, expression, and balance. Wisdom is the balance. Mind is the expression. We want to be masters of it. So we have to take some time out. And if that means, that can mean lots of different things. Taking the break from social media, taking a break from, whatever your social engagements are. Making room for prayer and meditation in your day is essential at this point. If you are not doing that, I really recommend that you're taking that time. And I'm not saying that means like turn your brain off and watch whatever. Really solitude, right? Self-reliance, silence, stealthiness. That's a big word that keeps coming up, stealth, right? Because you don't want to be like hanging out, leaving yourself open to be influenced by other people for their own agenda, right? You want to, a lot of cats in the wild, except for lions, they really are very solitary creatures. They are solo creatures. They are alone. And so the solitude allows you to move stealthily. It allows you to be silent. It allows you to also, limit all of that those diversified thought processes, and bring them in to one consistent and very masterful expression. Okay, so when it comes to feeling disempowered, here is our friend the weasel again. This is really important. Again, stealth. It's coming up. Stealth, silence, observation, discernment. We may be feeling disempowered, and we may have given up. And if we want to access that incredible amount of power, like a waterfall, water shapes the landscape. It's so powerful. Our emotions our emotions will dictate where our thoughts go, what thoughts we entertain, and what actions we're going to take. And if we want to utilize the full expression and power of our intuitive and emotionally based energy, then we have to a certain extent, really get discerning and get low to the ground, right? And this is be silent, pay attention, and simply observe, and all of your senses and the physical feelings about what is happening inside you and all around you. Be real with yourself. If you're feeling disempowered, just be able to acknowledge it and just pay attention to yourself instead of, flying off the handle or, projecting the blame out. And that actually is a great segue into, again, the garden here and the 5 of Roses. Again, this just came out yesterday. When it's reversed, oftentimes it's showing that the child within, or children in your actual life, depending on what kind of reading you're doing, are having a really hard time. And, children are very much connected to the sun in the 5th house. And this is much more too about this maternal Cancerian protection, right? The roses are the emotional element. These children represent these 2 aspects within us that are protected and enclosed with this beautiful garden so that they can really be them full selves, right? In protection. So when it's reversed like this, there are problems here, and there's a feeling of disempowerment. And oftentimes the children, that child within us that hasn't learned personal responsibility quite yet, tends to blame others. And it's important to be compassionate and patient with ourselves and other people, right? And let things unfold. Let things unfold. We can't control anything other than what's happening within us. And so if other people in your life are having these kinds of experiences, it's important to be compassionate and patient and let things unfold. Remember where Saturn is. We're all on a different stair on this staircase, that's going up to the ascension staircase. We're all in different places, so we have to be patient and it's so hard with the Sagittarius energy not to be judgmental. It's very difficult, and especially when you have adjustment at the heart of this, where it's uncompromising honesty, and you really have to just deal with things objectively, and the adjustment comes whether you like it or not, right? Be patient with yourself, be patient with the people around you, and let people figure it out as they go along. And that way you are not letting your energy just leak out everywhere and lead to you feeling disempowered. You can utilize that energy, that emotional energy, and feel the power if you are able to, be willing to be silent and observant and stealthy to a certain extent. Really just kind of sit back a little bit, because it's all, it's hard when you have a sudden realization. You may want to act on it, or you don't like what the realization is. And I saw a video yesterday, I should post it, of an individual who was, I don't even know where he was, but he had a bullhorn and he was shouting out of his window. He was doing his, this kind of performance art, or just, being himself, but, telling everybody, hey, good job wearing your masks and being complacent, blah, blah, blah. That whole part, good job fulfilling the narrative that they are imposing upon us. And somebody got so, it fractured somebody or triggered somebody so much that this person came and started damaging their car, right? Started smashing their own bike against this person's car and broke their windshield, all because he was expressing himself through a megaphone that everything that many people are believing is reality is actually crafted for a specific benefit. So when people have to make an adjustment based on a very swift realization, sudden realization, and it casts a shadow, some people can't get out from that shadow, and then they act out. And people, when that happens, sometimes it is so disruptive that people will just violently act out. So again, and this comes from feeling disempowered, feeling like we are not in power of ourselves. So if you are experiencing other people like that in your life, again, it's really important to like kind of be stealthy and sit back, and be discerning and be patient. And of course, this is not about letting other people abuse you necessarily or to cause harm, but you should always defend yourself. But everybody's in a different stage, and these sudden realizations will cast a shadow, and some people are not prepared for what that means. And so there's a lot of really good tools right now for this situation. But with like I said, the moon in Sagittarius, it's the first day of April. Things are really, really heating up right now. And it's important that we keep our heads on straight, and keep our emotional energy field and our emotional body in check. And just mindful of all of these things unfolding. So tomorrow is Good Friday. The moon will still be in Sagittarius all day, and we'll talk about all of those transits tomorrow, and we'll do some weekly astrology as well, because we have our third quarter square on Easter Sunday. So there's a lot still to talk about. This lunar cycle is something else, I'm telling you. And it's, again, about finding our Dharma. Not even our Dharma, just realizing Dharma and our relationship to it. That's really what this has been about, because we can't change anything outside of us until we understand ourselves and our role in this life. And that takes some real discipline and some mastery and real shadow work in order to understand ourselves and integrate those things. So, my friends, thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I'm going to maximize my face here for the end. If you are interested in a reading, astrology, learning your starseed origins, really important right now, and if you are interested in Reiki or shamanic energy work, if you have things that need to be cleared out, psychic surgery, cord cutting, or you just need energetic support for what's going on for you, you can go to catalystenergies.net and you can book a service through the website. That is in the description box below. You can join us on Facebook and Telegram, also in the description box below. You can access this video on BitChute and YouTube as well. And yeah, you guys have a great day. Really take care of yourself. Be easy on yourself. Be patient with other people. We're all doing the best we can. We are all here exactly for the reasons we are here. And we are all exactly where we need to be in order for our soul to grow and evolve. It's just a matter of awakening to that. So, love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.